The massive bridge of the Vorthok flagship hummed with quiet activity. Admiral Thexis stood before the main viewing screen, his 6 arms folded behind his back as he watched the star patterns shift. The bridge crew worked at their stations, their chittering voices creating a constant background noise that had become as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. Admiral called out Communications Officer Vex from his station. "We are receiving another transmission from the human fleet." Zixis turned his large head toward the officer. His compound eyes reflected the blue light from screens around the bridge, played through the speakers. The bridge filled with the clear voice of a human. The translation matrix made the words understandable, but Thexis could still hear the strange musical quality of their language underneath. "This is Captain Dongwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. Current position is Sector 779. Drid, reference Alpha 4-2. We are traveling at standard cruise speed toward the Kepler station. Our cargo hold contains medical supplies and farming equipment for the outer colonies. Escort vessels include the transport ship Busan, Runner, and the supply vessel engines, Hammer, and Transmission." The bridge fell silent, except for the usual background hum of the ship's systems. Thexis stared at the communication station with something that might have been confusion on his alien features. "Officer Vex," he said slowly, "did that human just tell us exactly where his ships are located?" "Yes, Admiral. He also told us what they are carrying and where they are going." Staxis moved closer to the communication station. His heavy footsteps echoed across the metal deck. "And he broadcast this on an open channel that anyone can hear." "Correct, Admiral. All ships in this sector would have received that transmission." The Admiral's mandibles clicked together in what his species considered deep thought. He had been fighting wars for over 200 years. He had commanded fleets against the crystal beings of the Andromeda sector. He had led ground assaults against the machine intelligence of the Outer Rim, but never in all his years of military service had he encountered an enemy that simply announced their position to anyone who cared to listen. "Are you certain our translation systems are working correctly?" he asked. "Yes, Admiral. Have run 3 diagnostic checks. The humans are definitely broadcasting their exact location, cargo contents, and destination." Thexis walked to the tactical display where Lieutenant Commander Zix was updating the star charts. The display showed the current position of the human fleet as a cluster of green dots moving slowly through space. "How many ships are in their group?" Thexis asked. 3 vessels, Admiral. One appears to be a military escort, but the other 2 are clearly civilian transports. They are moving in a standard merchant convoy formation, and they continue to broadcast their position. Every 30 minutes, Admiral. The same captain gives the same type of report. Position, cargo, destination, escort details. Everything. We would need to plan a perfect attack." Thexis studied the display for a long moment. The human ships were moving through a section of space that the Vorthok Empire claimed as their own. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Given what he was hearing on their transmissions, he was beginning to suspect it was the latter. "Admiral," said Navigation Officer Krell from across the bridge, "the human ships will reach the edge of our patrol zone in approximately 6 hours. Should we intercept them?" "How many ships do we have in this sector?" 12 warships, Admiral. 6 heavy cruisers, 4 destroyers, and 2 scout vessels." Thexis felt his confidence growing. 12 warships against 3 human vessels, only one of which appeared to be military. And the humans were broadcasting their position like a beacon for anyone to follow. This would be easier than he had initially thought. "Set course to intercept," he commanded. "Alert all ships in the patrol group. We'll surround the human convoy and capture their vessels." As the bridge crew began preparing for the intercept mission, Thexis found himself thinking about the human transmissions. In all his years of military service, He had never encountered such poor operational security. Most species went to great lengths to hide their ship movements. They used encrypted communications, false transponder codes, and deception tactics to confuse their enemies. But these humans seemed to be doing the exact opposite. They were practically inviting an attack. "Officer Vex," he called out, "you still receiving transmissions from the human fleet?" "Yes, Admiral. The captain just made another broadcast. Same information as before, but with updated position. Coordinates. Play it." Once again, the clear voice of Captain Dongwoo Kim filled the bridge. "This is Captain Dongwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. Current position is Sector 779. Grid reference Alpha 47. We continue toward Kepler Station at standard cruise speed. All systems operating normally. Weather conditions are clear. Escort vessels maintaining formation. In transmission." "Weather conditions?" Texas asked with surprise. Why would he? Report weather conditions in deep space. Unknown, Admiral. Perhaps it is a human custom. Texas shook his head. Key's humans were definitely not like other species he had encountered. They seemed to have no understanding of basic military tactics or operational security. They were broadcasting information that could get them killed. "How long until we reach intercept position?" 4 hours and 20 minutes, Admiral. "Good. Signal the other ships. We'll attack in formation Delta 7. The humans will not know what hit them." As the Vorthok fleet adjusted course toward the human convoy, Texas felt a familiar excitement building in his chest. The test would be a quick and easy victory. The humans had made it simple for him by announcing their exact position and capabilities. He would capture their ships, take their cargo, and add another victory to his long military record. But as the minutes passed, something continued to bother him about the human transmissions. No species could be this careless about military operations and still survive long enough to build a spacefaring civilization. There had to be something he was missing. "Officer Vex," he said finally, "how long have the humans been broadcasting their positions like this?" "According to our intelligence reports, Admiral, they have been using this type of open communication for several months. Every human convoy we have observed uses the same broadcasting pattern." "And how many human convoys have been successfully attacked by other species?" There was a pause as Vex consulted his data screens. "According to our records, Admiral, very few. Most species report that human convoys are difficult to engage successfully." Texas felt a small chill run down his spine. Perhaps these humans were not as foolish as they appeared to be. Captain Dongwoo Kim stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride, watching the starfield ahead through the main viewport. The bridge was smaller than most alien warships, but it hummed with efficient activity. His crew worked at their stations with the calm confidence that came from years of experience. "Captain," said Lieutenant Hyjin Park from the communication station, "it's time for the next position report." "Go ahead, Lieutenant." Hyjin activated the ship's transmitter and spoke into her headset. "This is Captain Dongwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. Current position is Sector 779. Grid reference Alpha 51. We are maintaining course toward Kepler Station. Cargo status remains unchanged. All escort vessels are in formation and operating normally. We have detected 12 alien warships on an intercept course. Estimated contact in 3 hours and 40 minutes. The alien fleet consists of 6 heavy cruisers, 4 destroyers, and 2 scout vessels. Are approaching from bearing 270. End transmission." Captain Kim nodded as the transmission ended. Around the bridge, his crew continued their work without any sign of concern. To an outside observer, it might have seemed like the humans were completely unaware of the danger they were in. "Any response from the other ships in the area?" Kim asked. "Yes, Captain. We have acknowledgments from 7 vessels so far. The Bison Runner confirms they have received our transmission. Captain Subin Lee reports that her ship is ready for whatever comes next. What about the Ancient's hammer, Commander? Taeho Choi sends his regards and says his crew is prepared. Kim smiled slightly. Good. Any word from the outer patrol ships? The Daegu's Fury reports they are moving to intercept position. Captain Minho Jang says they will be in position within 2 hours. The Gwangju Shield is also responding. Captain Sang Minho confirms they have received our tactical data. On the other side of the bridge, Engineer Specialist Ji-Won Kong looked up from her console. Captain, all systems are ready. The quantum resonance array is fully charged and standing by. The distributed targeting network is online and synchronized with all friendly vessels in the area. Excellent work, Specialist Kang. How are our friends doing? The alien fleet is maintaining their approach vector. They seem to believe they have the advantage of surprise. Kim walked over to the tactical display where the positions of all ships in the area were marked with colored dots. The alien ships appeared as red triangles, moving steadily toward the small cluster of green circles that represented the human convoy. But the display showed something that the aliens could not see. Scattered throughout the surrounding space, more green dots were converging on the area. Some were moving at high speed, others were adjusting their courses more gradually. All of them had received the same transmission that the aliens had intercepted. Lieutenant Park, Kim said, send another transmission. Ready, Captain? This is Captain Dongwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. Update for all vessels in the area. The alien fleet is now 3 hours and 15 minutes from intercept. They are maintaining attack formation Delta 7, which leaves their left flank vulnerable to flanking maneuvers. We have identified the flagship as a Vorthok heavy cruiser with enhanced shields but limited point defense systems. Recommended attack pattern is formation Beta 3 with a concentrated fire on the command vessel. All ships should be prepared to execute synchronized jump on my command and transmission. As the transmission ended, Kim noticed that his bridge crew was smiling. They had done this many times before, and they knew what was coming next. Captain, said Navigation Officer Yoon Ho-shin, the alien fleet is accelerating. They appear to be eager for battle. Of course they are. They think they're hunting helpless merchants. Should we continue to broadcast our position? Absolutely. We want them to know exactly where we are. Meanwhile, in the deep space around the convoy, other human ships were responding to the broadcast. The destroyer Busan Runner adjusted its course slightly, moving to a position that would put it behind the alien fleet when they reached the convoy. Captain Su Bin Lee stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display with calm attention. Communications, she said. Send a message to Soul's Pride. Tell Captain Kim that we are in position and ready to execute the plan. Message sent, Captain. Good. Now we wait. Several light years away, the heavy cruiser Ancient's hammer was also moving toward the intercept point. Commander Taeho Choi had received the same transmissions as everyone else, and his ship was loaded with the kind of surprises that made human vessels so dangerous. Engineering, he called out. Status on the gravity pulse generators. Ready? To deploy, Commander. We can create a localized space distortion field that will disrupt their formation. Excellent. Weapons, systems, online and ready. We have a full load of quantum torpedoes and our particle beam arrays are charged. Stand by for further orders. Back on Soul's Pride, Captain Kim was reviewing the tactical situation with his senior officers. The alien fleet was approaching, exactly as expected, and the human ships were moving into position around them. It's always the same, said Lieutenant Park. They hear our transmissions, and they think we're easy targets. They don't understand our way of doing things, Kim replied. In their cultures, information is power that you keep to yourself. They can't imagine that sharing information might make you stronger. How many times have we seen this scenario? It's too many to count. Every species in the galaxy seems to make the same mistake. Engineer Specialist Ji-Won Kong looked up from her console. Captain, I'm detecting some interesting energy signatures from the alien fleet. They're powering up their weapon systems, right on schedule. How long until they're in range? 2 hours and 30 minutes, Captain. Perfect. That gives our friends plenty of time to get into position. Kim activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands. This is the captain. We'll be engaging hostile forces in approximately 2.5 hours. Okay. All departments should complete their preparations and stand by for battle stations. Remember, we are not alone out here. Trust in your shipmates, trust in your training, and trust in the plan. We'll show these aliens why humans announced their position to their enemies. As the announcement ended, the bridge crew returned to their preparations. They had done this before, and they knew that the next few hours would be very educational for their alien visitors. Admiral Thexus watched the tactical display with growing satisfaction. The human convoy was directly ahead, still broadcasting their position like a beacon for anyone to follow. His 12 warships had formed a perfect attack formation, and the humans showed no signs of trying to escape. Distance to target, he asked. 15 minutes until weapons range, Admiral, replied Lieutenant Commander Zix. Excellent. Signal all ships to prepare for attack. We will disable their engines first, then board their vessels. Admiral, said Communications Officer Vex, the humans are broadcasting again. Let me hear it. Captain Dongwoo Kim's voice filled the bridge once more. This is Captain Dongwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. Alert to all ships in the area. The alien fleet is now 12 minutes from weapons range. They are maintaining their attack formation. Okay. All human vessels should prepare for defensive action. Execute Plan Gamma 7 on my mark. Remember, we are stronger together than we are alone. End transmission. Admiral Thexus felt a moment of confusion. Plan Gamma 7. What are they talking about? Unknown, Admiral? Perhaps it is some kind of emergency procedure. No matter. They only have 3 ships against our 12. Whatever plan they have, it will not save them. But as the Vorthok fleet closed in on the human convoy, something strange began to happen. The space around the battle area started to light up with new contacts on the sensor screens. Admiral, said Sensor Officer Criggs, his voice tight with concern. I am detecting multiple new contacts. Ships are appearing from all directions. What do you mean appearing? K. They were not there before, Admiral. Now they are. 1 count, ... 7, ... 9, ... 12 new vessels. Admiral Thexus stared at the tactical display in growing alarm. The neat formation of his fleet suddenly looked very different. Instead of surrounding 3 helpless human ships, his vessels were now in the center of a much larger group of enemies. Where did they come from? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral. They must have been hiding behind asteroids or using some kind of stealth technology. Sir, interrupted Communications Officer Vex, I am receiving a transmission from one of the new human ships. Play it. Huh. A new voice came through the speakers. This is Captain Minho Jang of the Earth vessel Daegu's Fury. All units, execute flanking maneuver Alpha 3. Target the alien flagship and heavy cruisers first. Remember, they have weak point defense systems on their port side. Admiral Thexus felt his stomach drop. How do they know about our point defense systems? Before anyone could answer, another human voice came through the communications system. Okay. This is Captain Subin Lee of the Bison Runner, moving to attack position. All units, the alien destroyers, are vulnerable to concentrated fire on their engine sections. And this is Commander Tae-ho Choi of the Engine's Hammer. Gravity pulse generators are ready. We can disrupt their formation when Captain Kim gives the signal. Admiral Thexus looked around his bridge in growing panic. The humans were coordinating their attack using the same open communications that had led him to believe they were helpless. But now he realized that every transmission he had intercepted had been heard by dozens of other human ships. Admiral, said Tactical Officer Vrel, the human ships are moving into attack positions. They know exactly where our weaknesses are. How is that possible? They have been listening to our communications. Admiral, they know our ship designs and our tactical formations, but we have been listening to their communications, too. Yes, Admiral, but they wanted us to hear them. The terrible truth began to dawn on Admiral Thexus. The humans had not been making a mistake with their open broadcasts. They had been setting a trap. Every transmission that announced their position had also been received by other human ships in the area. Every piece of tactical information they had shared had been used to coordinate a much larger response. All ships, evasive action, he commanded. Break formation and engage the enemy. But it was too late. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly around the Vorthok fleet. As Admiral Thexus watched, the human vessels began their attack with devastating precision. The destroyer, Gegu's Fury, appeared behind the Vortok formation and opened fire on the engines of two alien cruisers. Captain Minho Jang had positioned his ship exactly where the alien sensors could not detect it until it was too late. The heavy cruiser, Wanju's shield, materialized on the other side of the battle area. Captain Song Minho had brought his ships, massive weapons, to bear on the alien flagship. His concentrated fire began to overwhelm the Vorthok shields. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Vraal, the human ships are sharing targeting data in real time. When one of them finds a weak spot in our defenses, all the others know about it instantly. Admiral Thexus watched in horror as his carefully planned attack fell apart. The humans were not just fighting as individual ships, They were fighting as a single coordinated force, sharing information and adjusting their tactics faster than his ships could respond. This is Captain Dong-Woo Kim, the voice from Soul's Pride. All units, focus fire on the alien flagship. Their shields are down to 60%. Captain, your ship has the best position for the final attack. Acknowledged, replied Captain Sangmin. Guangzhou's shield is moving to attack position. Maro, said Communications Officer Vex, our ship is taking heavy damage. The humans are concentrating their fire on our command systems. Return fire. All weapons. We are trying, Admiral, but they seem to know exactly where to hit us to cause the most damage. Admiral Thexus realized that the human broadcasts had not just been about sharing their own positions. They had been sharing everything they learned about his fleet as well. Every weakness, every tactical mistake, every vulnerable system had been reported to all the human ships in the area. Scare, said Damage Control Officer Krex, we are losing power to the main engines. Scare to target it. Our propulsion systems and our weapons array is down to 40%. Added Tactical Officer VRL. Admiral Thexus looked at the tactical display and saw that half of his fleet was already disabled or destroyed. The remaining ships were scattered and unable to coordinate their defense. Admiral, said Captain Dongwu, Kim's voice over the communications. This is your opportunity to surrender. We do not wish to destroy your ships unnecessarily. Please respond. Admiral Thexus stared at the communications console. In all his years of military service, he had never been offered terms by an enemy that had just defeated his fleet. But he had also never encountered an enemy that fought the way these humans did. Signal all ships, he said quietly. Prepare to surrender. Admiral Thexus sat in the detention chamber aboard Soul's Pride, staring at the metal walls around him. The room was simple but clean, with a small table and 2 chairs. He had been treated well since his capture, but his mind was still struggling to understand what had happened to his fleet. The door opened and Captain Dong-Woo Kim entered, followed by Communications Officer Yunesio Nam. The captain carried a data pad while the communications officer held a recording device. Admiral Thexus, Captain Kim said as he sat down across from the alien commander. I hope you are comfortable. As comfortable as any prisoner can be, Thexus replied. His translator made his words sound flat and emotionless, but Captain Kim could hear the confusion in his voice. You are not exactly a prisoner. You are more like a guest who needs to learn something important. Learn what? Captain Kim activated his data pad and showed Thexus the tactical display from the recent battle. I want you to understand what really happened out there. You see, Admiral, you made the same mistake that every alien commander makes when they encounter human ships. What mistake? You thought that information was something to be kept secret, okay? You thought that we were weak because we shared our position with everyone. Admiral Thexus studied the display. True. You were broadcasting your location to all ships into the area that is basic military stupidity. No, Admiral. That is basic human intelligence. Communications Officer Unesio Name leaned forward. Admiral, may I ask you something? In your military, when you plan an attack, who knows about it? It's the commanding officers, of course, and the tactical staff. How many people is that? Perhaps 20 or 30 beings on each ship, okay? And what happens if your commanding officer is killed during the battle? Admiral Thexus paused. The second in command takes over. And if the second in command is also killed, then the third in command takes over. But by then, the battle plan may be lost. Exactly, said Captain Kim. In your military, knowledge flows from the top down. When the top is cut off, the rest of the ship cannot function properly. That is how military organizations work. That is how your military organizations work. Human military organizations work differently. Captain Kim touched his datapad, and the display changed to show the communication patterns during the battle. Every person on every human ship in that battle knew exactly what was happening. Not just the officers, not just the tactical staff, but everyone. That is impossible. You cannot share sensitive military information with common soldiers. Why? Not. Admiral Thexus opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. He had never really thought about why sensitive information had to be kept secret from lower-ranking personnel. Because, ... he began, then paused again. Because they might give the information to the enemy. But we were already given the information to the enemy, said Communications Officer Nam. We were broadcasting everything on open channels. You heard our transmissions yourself. That is exactly my point. You were giving away military secrets. We were sharing tactical intelligence, Captain Kim corrected. There is a difference. I do not understand the difference. Captain Kim stood up and walked to the small window that looked out into space. Admiral, in human culture, we have a saying. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. When I know something and I tell it to you, now we both know it. The knowledge has grown. But if you tell me your battle plans, then I can defeat you. Only if you can use that knowledge better than we can. But you cannot, because you do not understand how we think. Admiral Thexus felt frustrated. Then explain it to me. Captain Kim returned to his seat. When we broadcast our position, we are not just telling the enemy where we are, but we're telling every human ship in the area where we are. When we report that we are carrying medical supplies, we are not just telling potential attackers what we have. We are telling other human ships what we need to protect. And when you broadcast information about my fleet, we are telling every human ship in the area how to defeat you. The truth was beginning to dawn on Admiral Thexus. You were coordinating your entire fleet using transmissions that we could hear, Kes. And the reason we could do that is because we trust each other completely. Trust. Communications Officer Nam nodded. Admiral, when a human ship broadcasts tactical information, every other human ship knows that information is accurate and useful. We do not have to worry about deception or hidden agendas. You know that if Captain Kim says there are 12 enemy ships approaching, then there are 12 enemy ships approaching. But what if Captain Kim is wrong? Then we are all wrong together, and we adjust our plans together. But we are rarely wrong because we have hundreds of sensors and dozens of ships, all sharing information. Admiral Thexus looked at the tactical display again. Now he could see how the human ships had coordinated their attack. Each ship had contributed information about the Vorthok fleet's weaknesses, and that information had been instantly shared with every other human vessel. Your ships were not just fighting individually, he said slowly. They were fighting as a single unit. Exactly. 12 human ships, thinking and acting as one mind. That is why we could defeat your fleet, even though you had superior numbers. Hey. This is normal for human military operations. This is how we have always fought, Captain Kim replied. We learned long ago that armies that share information are stronger than armies that hide information. Okay, but sharing information makes you vulnerable to enemy intelligence. Only if the enemy can use that information better than we can. But they cannot, because they do not understand cooperation the way we do. Admiral Thexus sat back in his chair. So when you broadcast your position, you are not being careless, you are being confident. We are saying that we trust our allies so completely that we will share everything with them, even if our enemies are listening. And you are saying that you are not afraid of your enemies knowing where you are. We are saying that if our enemies want to find us, they are welcome to try. Communications Officer Nam smiled. Admiral, there is something else you should know. This battle was not unusual. Human fleets fight this way all the time. Every species that has attacked human ships has learned the same lesson you learned today. What? Lesson? That when humans tell you where they are, it is not because they are weak. It is because they are strong enough to let you know exactly where to find them. Admiral Thexus looked out the window at the stars. He was beginning to understand why human ships broadcast their locations. They were not making themselves vulnerable to attack. They were making themselves part of something larger and more powerful than any single ship could be. Captain Kim, he said finally, I need to report this to my commanders. Of course, but Admiral, remember this. When you tell them about human tactical methods, you will be sharing information, just like we do. The question is whether your people will use that information to become stronger, or whether they will use it to become more afraid. Admiral Thexus nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand that the humans had not just defeated his fleet. They had given him a lesson in a completely different way of thinking about warfare. 3 months had passed since the battle in Sector 779. Admiral Thexus stood before the high command of the Vorthok Empire, facing 7 of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy. The massive chamber was filled with the clicking and chittering sounds of his species' language as the commanders discussed his report. Admiral Thexus said to Supreme Commander Vorthok, the eldest and most decorated officer present, your report about human tactical methods is difficult to believe. I understand, Supreme Commander. I would not have believed it myself if I had not experienced it personally. You claim that the humans defeated 12 of our warships using only 3 vessels. No, Supreme Commander. They defeated 12 of our warships using 15 vessels that coordinated their attack through open communications. Open communications that you could hear. Supreme Commander. Every transmission was broadcast on frequencies that any ship could intercept. General Craxus, the youngest member of the High Command, leaned forward. Admiral, if you could hear their communications, why could you not counter their tactics? Because, by the time we understood what they were doing, it was too late. Our ships were already in position, and their attack was already coordinated. But surely our intelligence about human weaknesses is accurate. Admiral Thexus shook his head. Our intelligence was completely wrong, General. We assumed that open communications meant poor military discipline. We thought that broadcasting their position meant they were careless. We were wrong about everything. Supreme Commander Vorthok activated a holographic display showing the battle data. Explain to us exactly how their coordination works. Imagine, Supreme Commander, that instead of 12 separate ships, we were fighting against one massive vessel with 12 different weapon systems. Each human ship acts like a single part of a larger whole. When one ship detects a weakness in our defenses, all ships know about it instantly. When one ship develops a new tactic, all ships can use it immediately. That is impossible. No fleet can coordinate that perfectly. Human fleets can, Supreme Commander. And they do it by sharing everything with everyone all the time. The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Finally, General Craxus spoke again. Admiral, what do you recommend we do with this information? We must warn all our commanders about human tactical methods. And we must stay away from human ships whenever possible. Stay away. We are the Vorthok Empire. We do not run from anyone. Respect, General. We should run from humans. They fight in ways that we cannot counter using traditional tactics. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place on ships belonging to dozens of different species. The story of the human victory over the Vorthok fleet was spreading through the galactic communication networks like wildfire on the bridge of a Zephyrian cruiser. Captain Kelter was briefing his officers about the latest intelligence reports. The humans have done it again, he said, gesturing to the tactical display. Another alien fleet destroyed by ships that broadcast their positions. How many times has this happened now? Asked his first officer. This is the 7th confirmed incident in the past year. Every time, the pattern is the same. Human ships announce their location, enemy fleets attack, and the humans destroy the attackers using coordinated tactics. Are we certain these reports are accurate? The Vorthok Admiral gave a full debriefing to their high command. Our intelligence sources confirmed that his account matches the reports from other species. The first officer studied the data. Captain, what happens if we encounter human ships? We avoid them if possible, okay? If we cannot avoid them, we do not attack, okay? And if they broadcast their position to us, we immediately change course and leave the area. In the crystal cities of the Andromeda sector, the machine intelligence that governed the region was processing similar information. The artificial minds that controlled the sector's defenses had reached a unanimous conclusion about human tactical methods. Analysis complete, announced the primary processing unit. Human fleet coordination exceeds our computational models. Recommendation: avoid contact with human vessels. Classification: extreme threat level. Confirmed, replied to secondary. Systems: human broadcasting behavior indicates confidence in superior tactical capabilities. Do not engage. Back in human space. Captain So-Young Lim stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Jeju's Dawn as it entered a new star system. The ship was on a routine survey mission. Captain Lim knew that their arrival would not go unnoticed by the local alien populations. Lieutenant, she said to her communications officer, gained standard position broadcasting. Yes, Captain. This is Captain So-Young Lim of the Earth vessel Jeju's Dawn. We are entering system designation Kepler 442 for routine scientific survey operations. Our ship is lightly armed with standard defensive systems only. We carry a crew of 43 personnel and scientific equipment for planetary analysis. Our mission duration is estimated at 72 hours. End transmission. On the sensor display, Captain Lim could see several alien ships in the outer system. Soon as her transmission ended, those ships began changing course. They were not moving to intercept her vessel. They were moving away from it, Captain, said her tactical officer. The alien ships are leaving the system. How many? All of them, Captain. 8 vessels just activated their faster-than-light drives and departed. Any communication from them? No, Captain. They just left. Captain Lim smiled. This had become a common occurrence over the past few months. Word was spreading throughout the galaxy about human tactical capabilities, and alien commanders were learning to avoid human ships entirely. Continue the survey mission, she ordered. Okay, and maintain regular position broadcasts. I want everyone in this system to know exactly where we are. As Jeju's dawn continued deeper into the system, Captain Lim reflected on how much had changed since humans first began exploring the galaxy. In the early days, alien species had seen human ships as easy targets. They had attacked human convoys and tried to capture human technology, but now human ships were feared throughout the galaxy. Not because they were heavily armed or technologically superior, but because they fought in ways that alien commanders could not understand or counter. The simple act of broadcasting their position had become a warning signal that meant stay away if you value your ships. The irony was not lost on Captain Lim. Humans had become the most feared military force in the galaxy, not by hiding their weaknesses, but by demonstrating their strengths. Every open transmission was a declaration of confidence. Every shared piece of tactical information was a promise that human ships were never truly alone. "Captain," said the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the outer edge of the system. Play it." The voice that came through the speakers was clearly alien, with a mechanical quality that indicated machine translation. "Human vessel. This is patrol ships Zarian. We are departing this system. You may conduct your operations without interference. We do not wish to engage." Captain Lim activated her own transmitter. "Acknowledged, Zarian. Safe travels." As the alien ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Captain Lim knew that somewhere in the galaxy, another report would be filed about the strange humans who broadcast their positions to their enemies. Another alien commander would learn why those transmissions were so feared, and another species would add humans to their list of civilizations that should never be challenged. The legend continued to grow. It's carried by every alien ship that encountered humans and lived to tell about it. The message was always the same. When humans tell you where they are, it is not an invitation to attack. It is a warning to stay away.